the ultimate deck podcast. Need a show about outdoor living? This is where it's at with your hosts, Shane Chapman and Way Laurent. Thank you for tuning in. Now let the show begin. Yeah, the ultimate deck podcast. Let's go.
Welcome back, everybody. Wade and Shane back in the building here. I'm ready to talk deck stuff. How about you?
Yeah, like we might as well. It's been a long time since we have.
You know, I listened to this podcast the other day about podcasts, ironically, and it was like, is podcasting still, like, where is podcasting going? Is it still a good marketing channel? Blah, blah, blah. And they were talking about how, like, they were comparing it to radio, and if there's as much, like, ad revenue possibilities or opportunity within podcasting as there is in radio and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were like, yeah, like, podcasts tend to have, like, much more, like, niche stuff where there's, like, very niche viewership and it's a niche topic. And I was like, they're talking to me right now.
Yeah.
Because when you tell people that aren't in the decking world, like, yeah, we got a podcast about decks. They're like, about decks?
Yeah.
What do you talk about? All of the things, actually. Every single one of them.
Mostly decks, though.
Yeah. Today's topic, though, is what you'd probably think we might talk about in the first episode ever, in spite of that we're 250 episodes in. This one is... I just thought, well, let's answer the top 5 questions a homeowner might ask when they're about to build a deck.
I feel like we've probably answered all of these.
Oh, for sure.
Great
if you've listened to the
podcast.
first 249 of these things, these questions have been answered
They've been
numerous
answered.
times.
Yep.
But most people, when they find our podcast, are not going to like go back and listen to 380 hours worth of podcasting. So it's good to kind of like put this into a 30-minute episode just answering the most common questions, I think.
And then we'll call it, what are you thinking?
What's on your mind?
What's on your mind?
Building a deck, huh? What do you... I shouldn't have to prod you for your questions. What are your questions? Just tell me what your questions are. So anyways, we just relied on ChatGPT for this. You could rely on Google for this if you want, or any of the search engine tools out there. Anyways, what is the best material for my deck? What do you think, Wade? I haven't showed you these questions yet, so this is going to be very authentic.
Yeah, like I still think it's composite. I believe that any version of composite is the best option for your deck.
Yeah.
I'm biased on that. It goes all the way, like, you have so many different price points. When people are like, well, I can't do composite, it's expensive. It's like, well, that's not true. Some of it is very expensive. Some of it is not.
Yeah, and relative to your cheapest possible option of pressure-treated decking, it's more pricey than that.
It's more pricey than that. But
you know what? The cost of pressure-treated decking in the US of A is definitely higher than it is in Canada. So and the cost of composites in the USA is definitely less than it is in Canada. So I believe that the gap between the two in the US of A, I don't know why I'm saying it like that today, in the USA is for sure smaller than it is in Canada. Because you're for sure not buying pressure treated 5/4x6 in the USA for what the equivalent of 75 cents a linear foot USD.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think you're closer to like $2. And with
really
$1.50, $2, I feel like it's like, I get the vibe from talking to a lot of guys that are like, yeah, no, they pay more for sure. And
crazy
composites, on the other hand, for a good brand, for a good brand, not the shitty imported like stuff that's going to decay in 3 years. Yep. But a good brand, you're in Canada, you'd be hard pressed to find something even at the $3 mark. It's probably $3.50 per linear foot, which would be like $2.75 US. And I'm guessing you could probably find that for because you don't have the logistics as much, right? I'm guessing you can probably see that stuff at like over $2, but like less than $2.50.
Yeah, but low $2, right?
And then your premium boards up here, we're talking like most of the common, like I would say the mass market premium boards are in that like $8 to $9 per linear foot range. Yeah. Probably $6 in the US. Yeah. And then you've got the hyper premium ones that are like 12 to 15, and that's probably $10 in the US. But regardless, I think the gap's less there. What's best for you just depends on what you're looking for. Some people are just like, no, I don't want that plastic shit. I want real wood. And it's like, okay, well then this is a different answer for you. As long as you're okay with the maintenance and the upkeep of wood and the drawbacks of wood, fine.
But that, it's come a long ways, right? So the products that you use to maintain wood is significantly improving as well. So the stains are better and they last a little bit longer, depending on what you have for traction and sun exposure and weather, blah, blah. Yep. But for the most part, the stains are easy to apply. They work super well. So it used to be like you would do this pressure treated lumber and then you kind of paint a skin on top of it and it peels off, and it's just like it's a really bad experience.
Yeah, you've installed a job for yourself for the rest of the life, your life or the life of the
Yeah, and they used to be that you could only fasten the boards down from the top, so there was always that added risk of like splinters, and now there's a different, Camo has come out with ways that you can shoulder screw it down, and so there are some improvements, which is good. So it can be wood if that's what you like and prefer.
Yeah, and there's kind of two categories of wood that you can do if you want wood and not composite, and that is like either softwoods, which is what pressure treated would be. Yeah. Pressure treated, depending on the market, is pine, fir, hemlock, like some sort of softwood lumber.
Yep.
You can go with cedar, which is a step up,
Mm-hmm.
or redwood, which is a similar price point and aesthetic.
Yeah.
So those are really good options. Or you can go for hardwoods, which then your price goes way up from what the softwoods would be, but then you're starting to look at like Ipe or Blau or Tigerwood,
Kumaru,
whatever. Like there's a lot of those, lots of that stuff out there too. That's definitely a more premium offering. But within the composite, that's what most people are after nowadays, is the low maintenance or no maintenance of composite decking, composite / PVC decking.
Yeah.
But yeah, the price points can range from a little bit more than, the softwood decking prices to much, much, much more. Yeah. It's literally like probably a 3 to 4x between a budget composite and a high tier composite.
Correct.
So whatever you want, it depends on the person, the answer to that.
Yeah.
But the average person would really appreciate like a budget to mid-tier, good quality brand composite.
I think so, right? And then within that, you just got to find one that meets your needs. So are you looking for some sort of level of traction? Are you looking for durability? Or looking for heat resistance? And so.
And then to your point, if you do decide to go wood, you do have to maintain it. Do use a good product. I found myself using these words for people because there's so many bad products out there. There's so many products out there, some good, some bad, many bad. But it's like, what do you look for? And even the terminology of what to ask for to store is different. People are like, I think I want to paint my deck. And like, you're going to paint it? Well, no, I don't. I don't know. You like with paint. Well, no, I don't know. Stain?
What would I do? Yeah.
I'm going to stain it then. It's like, even the terminology is confusing.
Yeah.
I've been telling people lately that the thing you should search for is a high quality, synthetic, penetrating, non-curing oil.
Oh yeah. They only get one.
Checks all the boxes, right?
Yeah.
You want it to be a penetrating oil, not film forming.
Yeah.
You want it to be non-curing, which is essentially non-film forming. It's going to soak into the wood and like stay active.
Yeah.
And what was the other part I said?
You said
high
synthetic.
Quality. Synthetic. So synthetic ensures that it's not organic material in it, and you're not going to like encourage mold growth.
Correct.
Because some oils out there are based out of something organic, and they can be a food source for mold. So when you start talking about that, those 3 or 4 things I mentioned, it's like, yeah, you're down into like a Q-Tech Extreme is a really good option, a Ready Seal, a Stain and Seal Experts, those kind of products that are fantastic. But that's the type of coating you want to use.
Correct.
The brand is up to you. But
yeah.
Number 2, how much will it cost to build my deck? This one's always tricky. Hey, we just finished talking about how it can range from like $1 a linear foot for treated and up to $15 for high-end composites. And that's linear foot pricing. So we're really talking about like $220 per square foot up to $35 per square foot. Yeah, this, like, there's so many components to this that it's impossible to give people a straight answer. If you're talking about just a treated deck and you're going to install it yourself, yeah, $10 a square foot, $15 a square foot, yeah, you could probably do it for that.
Probably.
But if you're talking about like hiring somebody and using premium materials, now you could be just as easily adding a zero to that. $100 to $150 a square foot, more maybe, depends what you're doing. I would say on average, we find that most decks we sell that are usually like a budget composite are ranging from like, let's call it $30, $35 to $50, $55 a square foot. That's kind of an average. It can certainly be much less. It can certainly be much more, depending on your fit and finish.
It's really tricky because people walk in the store and they want this answer. How much is my deck going to cost? And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It really depends on kind of like what you want to spend. And then they don't know what they want to spend. They want a good deck that they don't have to worry about. And so
the perfect analogy is
really
the car.
tricky. Yeah.
How much is a car? Well, it
How
depends
much is
on
a
what
car?
things you want in your car. What's your fit and finish? What brand? What, like, there's a big difference between I don't know even know what the current low end cars would be, but between just like a Chevy Corsa, I don't even know if that's
Yeah.
whatever, a Cavalier of days past, and a Bugatti. Both cars, both wheels, both going to get you from point A to B. They both serve the same function. Significant difference in the materials used, the fit and finish, everything.
Yeah.
The brand, even.
So that's a hard one. It's nearly impossible for deck builders to answer that because you got to help us a little bit find out.
There's a number of
where-
questions you'll have to answer first
Yeah.
before you can get a real accurate. On our website, we have a deck budget calculator. If you go to tuds.ca, tuds.ca, we have a deck budget calculator on there that will ask you the appropriate questions, like what kind of footings you want to use, how do you want to frame this thing, what kind of decking do you want to use, what kind of fascia you want to use, how stairs, all this stuff.
The reason I like that
That
calculator,
can then give you a number.
yeah, I like that calculator because it's active, right? And so when you like put in piles, it gives you a price, and then when you go to slabs, it changes that price immediately. It's like, oh, now it's this.
Yep.
And so you get to watch how your decisions affect that price. You're like, I want it 16-inch on center. Well, I want it 12. No, I want steel framing. No, I want wood framing. No, I want, and then you get to be like, you can start to put value on these things because you start to get a price for them.
Right.
So you can be like, oh, I definitely want this and I don't want that.
Yeah.
This
you
doesn't
can go in
matter
there
to me.
build your dream deck. It's like, well, yeah, obviously I'll choose the 12 inches on center. That's better. Obviously I'm going to choose the high end decking because it's better. Obviously I'm going to choose the screw piles because it's better. And then you get to the bottom, it's like, oh, $34,000. I was thinking more like 15. So maybe I don't need 12 inches on center. Maybe I don't need the premium decking.
Right.
And you can play with it until you get the number to where you need it to be. And then you can take that list and be like, hi, Mr. Lumberyard, I'm looking for this.
Something like this. Can you help me?
Can you align to these kind of basic requirements?
Right.
So it's a good starting point for sure. Number 3, how long will the deck last and what maintenance is required?
To the same point that we started with at the question 1. So if you use a composite deck board and aluminum railing, you're in for the long haul.
Yeah.
You got that deck for a long time.
And steel framing to add to that, because that'll be the first thing it goes.
Yep.
Then you're talking 50.
Lifetime.
It's there for as long as the house is.
Yep. It's a lifetime there.
But if you're going all pressure treated, no maintenance, you're not planning on doing nothing to it, didn't put any sort of joist protection on the frame, nothing, 7 to 15 years.
Yeah. Depends on your climate. Depends how high it is off the ground, if there's some airflow under it or not.
And right now, there's a guy somewhere who's having an absolute meltdown listening to me like, I built deck 35 years and it still looks brand new.
It's different wood.
Happens
then.
every time.
Different wood then.
Different wood, different treatment. Deck today would, unless it's in Arizona
Yep.
and there's like 0 termites and there's 0 rain, you might get 35 years out of that. You're in Washington, that's the 7 market.
Yeah. And this is based on protecting the deck as well, right? So if you build a wood deck and you actually stain it and take care of it and oil it properly, then it can last a long time. Then it can last 20 years.
Yeah.
But
It's like a car.
But if you just put it on and then you walk away from it, it's like, well, there you go.
Sometimes a car after 10 years looks like it's 30 years old because the person didn't take care of it, didn't wash it, didn't wax it, didn't vacuum it, didn't condition the leather, didn't do anything. And other people are very careful, and all of a sudden that car that's 10 years old looks like it's about 3 years old. So it just depends on how much effort you put into maintaining it. Bare minimum, if you're going to do composite deck, tape or coat the joist tops, because that's one of the quickest places to go. And unfortunately nowadays, it's like all the good brand composites are adding a warranty of 25, 30, 40, 50 lifetime warranties to them, which is all great, but there's 0 chance that wood frame is going to get that much life either.
You are not getting 30 years out of a wood frame right now.
You can add some water mitigation things like joist tape or the paint on coating or whatever that will help extend the life. So maybe now instead of the 15 years you might have got or 10 years, maybe you add 10 years to that.
Yeah.
And you'll get the 2025.
Yeah.
But if you're actually somebody who's like, no, I want the full 50, then you better start looking at alternative framing methods, I would say. Like that's when you're looking at steel or composite framing or something.
Yeah. Which is good.
And what maintenance is required? Well, like I said, with wood, you're gonna have a maintenance schedule probably every other year, maybe 3 years. You're gonna be oiling it. Some people do it every year.
It really depends on your location. If you're a southwest facing deck and you got kids, 2-3 kids, then you're doing it every year.
Yeah.
It's
Tons of
just
foot
busy.
traffic, tons of sun, tons of rain.
Every
you
year.
might be annually doing it.
Yep.
But that's like, I always tell people like on decks with QTech, on decks, you're probably going to get 3 to 5 years. If it's super like extraordinary use, then less.
Yeah.
2 to 4 years I usually say on decks, and 3 to 5 for like vertical services, like your railing and pergola, stuff like that. So 2 to 4 on a deck. And that's, just depends on usage.
Yeah.
Do I need a permit to build a deck, and how does the process work? So this question can only be answered by your local building department's jurisdiction, because they're all different as to when you might, they'll be similar, but they'll be different, because even in the 2 markets we operate in the same province, there are differences.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on a number of things. Typically when the deck is low to the ground, but the number could be 8 inches, could be 12 inches, could be 24 inches, depending where you are, you don't need a permit. Typically when the deck is so small, sometimes it's 32 square feet, sometimes it's 20 square feet, you don't need one. Some markets, if you don't attach to the house, you don't need one. Other markets, no, you just still do. Like there's a lot of questions around that.
Certainly.
How does the process work? Also different depending on the place, but again, reach out to your local building department. For certain, there'll be an application that you have to fill out. That's just your details, like who's building it, who's the homeowner, what's the address, etc. And then you'll have to provide some sort of detail around what you're building and where you're building it to ensure it meets the zoning requirements and you're not building over top of any easements.
Yep.
And they want to know, like, well, what are you building? Is it going to be built safely? What size of lumber are you using? How far is it spanning? They want to make sure this thing is built safe and people aren't going to get hurt during the process.
Yeah.
So go to your local, county, municipality, whoever's governing that. And on their website, they will probably have the entire process documented for you, step by step.
Yeah.
Most places would.
Yeah, they usually do, right? It's usually not uber complicated to put it together.
But for a basic deck, it's usually not as scary as people think it is.
Yep.
I know some places are super strict and it can be a lot more of a headache than others, but
yeah, it depends what markets you get into. I know that in Calgary, when you apply for a permit and you want to use composite decking, they want the data sheet on that material, right? They want to know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the fire rating on it, and so
you were saying
where
that
it was
about
manufactured, and it's like, that's pretty serious. That's a pretty serious inquiry.
Yeah, we had a commercial project that we were engaged on that was requiring the coefficient of friction, both dry and wet, for the composite deck, and they have minimum requirements for commercial, and so that's not uncommon for commercial, but in Canada and the US, nowhere that I'm aware of requires that for residential construction. But you were saying that you would talk to one of the manufacturers and they're like, oh yeah, no problem, I have that, because in Europe there is a unified standard of a minimum coefficient of friction, dry and wet, to even be allowed to be sold in the market.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So some products that do fine here are not allowed to be sold there because they're just a little bit too slippery.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That's true. True to my knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, somebody told you and then you told me, so it could just be a bunch of bullshit, but now it's out on the internet.
Now it's on the podcast and it's done. That's finished.
What design options do I have and what features can be included? This is an open-ended question. So as far as the actual structure of the deck and design options as far as shape and whatnot, you really have anything your mind can dream up. There's ways to build everything, whether it's curved deck or multi-tier deck or ground level or up in the air. There's always a way to do it.
Yeah.
It can impact cost quite a bit doing that.
It will impact cost.
Yeah. There's certainly other things you can do with mixing and matching features. You don't have to just build a giant deck. Maybe you build a 2-tier deck that goes down to a patio area that you do some hardscaping in, or some grass or some synthetic turf or whatever. The design options are endless. If you are somebody who has trouble visualizing this stuff or coming up with these ideas, you could either go on and find a free design planner and play yourself, or don't be afraid of the idea of hiring a landscape designer or a designer of some sort. Yes, it's going to cost you a bit of money, but better to spend that $1,000, $2,000 now and get a perfect plan to give to your contractor to build exactly what you want, rather than trying to piece it all together and then not being happy in the end.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important parts in the design is thinking through how you're going to use that space, right? And it's what are you trying to achieve? What are you looking to accomplish on the deck? Is it that the living room is too small and you need a place, your house living room is too small, so you want a place to lounge? It's like, okay, well then design your deck with a big lounging area in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, big lounging areas usually aren't conducive to 2-tier and 3-tier decks.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, okay, you want to like one larger area that everybody can kind of gather at, then it's probably a 1-tier deck.
Yeah.
And it's probably a little bit further out because you're doing couches, not small chairs. So it's
right. And that cost of that designer, if they're good at what they do and they're an expert in how things are done and how things get costed out and whatever, you may save that $1,000 or $2,000 over and over again by following their expertise.
Yeah.
Because you might be like, oh, I'm going to do this with all these giant wraparound stairs and all this stuff, whatever. And then the designer's like, cool. But just so you understand, that's going to cost like, that's going to jack the budget up by thousands to do stairs like that. And it's not super functional because now you've got all these like dead zones where you can't put furniture and all this stuff. And they might be like, do it this instead. And you're like, oh, I really like that. You paid them $1,500.
Yeah.
But they saved you $4,000 in unnecessary building, like things that aren't like, this requires a whole bunch of extra piles because you didn't think it through how that was going to be framed, that kind of stuff. It may save you money.
And if you did the drawing on your own and took it to a contractor and you have 3 contractors come out and they all do the quote and you given them the drawing, they're not going to talk you out of the stairs. You know what I mean? Like you drew it. And so then you show it to them. Their job is to build what you ask. And then they do. And it turns out you don't love the deck because you can't use part of it. It's like, oh man, these stairs, it turns out these stairs are all actually in my way. And I thought it was going to be really nice because it was going to cascade out into the yard and it was going to give this full effect that looks great. But it turns out it only looks great from the yard looking back at it.
Yeah.
And you don't use it at all.
And I didn't realize that having those stairs was going to chew up like 6 or 7 or 8 feet of my yard. I didn't think they were going to go out so far. It's like,
right.
Yeah, that's what happens when the deck's 14 here. Like so yeah, you can hire some design build firms like decking companies that are like bigger operations that'll do the design part. They probably have a designer on staff and the building. And that's really good because then you've got both expertises. You got the visual creative person and also they've got somebody in house that could be like, that would be very difficult to build. That would be expensive to build it like that.
Don't do that.
Because sometimes designers too can just be like, wee, it looks so fun, but they have no concept of what's required to structurally put it together. And it's like, that's really expensive to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. It just looks cool. So
exactly.
And what features can be included? Well, just about anything. Like outdoor living spaces have really like come a long way. They now can be whatever you'd like them to be. If you want them to be a lounge area, a dining room, a kitchen, a work area, a fitness room, like you can put all that kind of stuff out into your backyard. Fire pits, you name it. Pools, hot tubs, like backyards are intended to be more fun than your house. Your house is where you live. Your backyard is where you escape. That's where you go to have fun, to de-stress.
Yeah.
So
it's like a retreat, right?
Whatever you want back there.
Yeah. And I think some of the important things that you should think about when you're doing is like, I just really think that any sort of lighting is really important. I think you should just get some sort of light back there.
Good call. Yep.
And I also really think that like an aerial structure or mixing materials is really nice. Like it doesn't have to be this giant pergola over the whole thing, but a trellis over the barbecue looks really great. Yeah. Like it looks really, really nice.
It adds a lot to just having a big blank deck.
And so maybe that happens kind of in conjunction with it, right? So you build this deck, you put a little pergola, and then you hang some lights in the pergola.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there it is. That now you have this super soft space and it just looks so good. You mixed materials, which is also looks really great. Like, I think that
to go back to the car analogy, you can add all your extras, all the things you want. Because if you just tell somebody like, I just want a car that runs and has 4 wheels and gets me to point A to point B, that's base level.
Pressure treated deck.
Then you got to be like,
square.
Oh no, I do want AC though, and the leather, and the whatever.
Yeah.
And the power doors and powered seats and whatever else. That decks are the same thing. You can add on these extra conveniences.
Yes.
Or luxuries. And but you need to be aware of what's available, what the options are. That's why talking to an expert is a good idea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Bonus question on this one too. How long will it take to build my deck?
We don't know. I don't know how long it takes. Depends how big it is.
Yeah, pretty open-ended question.
A week.
Sometimes
I think if you leave a week, they're probably okay.
For an average deck. If somebody who knows what they're doing is doing it. For an average deck, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be done in a weekend. Like smaller, like cookie cutter, 10 by 12, day or two, like you can knock those things out pretty fast. But sometimes you're doing a whole backyard and you're doing all the extra features, and it's got the pergola, and it's got the bar top, and it's got the sunken living room, and the built-in fireplace, and the built-in bench, like all this stuff. It's like you can start to get into like months if you're taking on a big project.
Yeah, and it depends who's doing it, right? Is it you and your friends? Is it a contractor? How much time do you have?
Yep.
Right? You're going to get 2 really solid days when you start, because if you're doing it yourself, you've decided to get the materials delivered on Friday, and you're going to start Saturday, Sunday, and then for the rest of the week, it's going to be hanging over your head, and you're going to be trying to get out there for evenings and weekends, and you're going to it might take a long time, actually.
I always, when I was back in my building days, to give myself a rough, just for my own scheduling purposes, not for quoting it necessarily, but for scheduling, I always just kind of slotted in my calendar like 2 days per 100 square feet. Because we were typically doing like things a little bit more intricate. Like if it was just a treated deck and treated rail and like 10 by 10, 100 square feet, it's like you could probably just knock that out in a day.
Mm-hmm.
But usually it was composite, and it had the fascia board, and it had like maybe the stairs were a little bit more detailed. So it was like if I budgeted usually 2 days per 100 square feet, that usually got me pretty close within a day or two of finishing on an average deck, right?
Yeah.
300 square feet. Yeah, that's a week. That's probably 5-6 days.
Yeah.
So that's loosely how it worked. But again, depends what you're doing with it. So.
Right.
Anyway, anything else to add, Wado?
I don't. No.
Good.
September long. Kids are all going back to school in the
man.
States. It's
we had our backpack drop off last night. Took the kids down there. I have one starting kindergarten this year, so he was excited to go meet his teacher and see the classroom and everything else. And then another one going into grade 2.
How does the kindergarten schedule work for you? Is it every other day, or is it every day, half day?
He's on the Tuesday, Thursday schedule.
And every second Friday?
Right.
Tuesday, Thursday, and every second Friday.
Yep. That's the one. So 2.5 days a week.
I was talking to some people about this just the other day. It's so tough, man, to schedule and get a routine. It's like almost better if the kids just have half days. You know, if it was every day, half day, then they wake up in the morning.
So when we had childcare, that for sure was going to be easier.
Yeah. Because then you wait every morning, you wake up in the morning and it's like breakfast and go to school and whatever, get on the bus. And then every night it's like, okay, pack the lunch. You know, it's just a routine that's super easy to follow.
For me now, in my current situation, and having another kid who is there all day, all of the days.
Yeah.
I think I much prefer this like Tuesday, Thursday, like 2 days a week, gone the whole day. Because I don't want to have to worry about going and picking them, like dropping them both off in the morning and then going to pick one up at noon and then going back at 3:30. It's like very disruptive.
Yes.
But if I can get rid of both kids for 2 days a week, at least I can plan to be productive in those 2 days.
Right.
Like, because I don't just have the one little one at home, and he's the easiest one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, Jake goes into grade 1 this year. So,
yeah,
which is great because now
it's a big change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just every day. It's like school every day, all day, which makes it a little bit easier for sure.
Yeah.
But
I've tried to, in the last little bit here, to get myself like into routines. I'm not a routine based person at all. And given my current life of no daycare and working my wife and I are trying to like figure out who's working what days, almost impossible for routines. But I've tried to like create some little bit of routine on the days I'm working versus the days I'm not, and how that looks a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to like, for the last month, I've been working out at like minimum 5 days a week, which has been great. And now I'm prioritizing that for myself. It's like, even today, like when I wake up, it's like, I'm not worried about like, gotta be at the store by 8, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, set the alarm for 5:45, get out, like I hit snooze button a few times. So get out of bed probably closer to 6:30, but like get out to the gym by 7, get your work in, done by 8, be at work by 9. That's my goal now. Right.
Yep.
And I'm not feeling guilty about it anymore. I'm like, that's okay. That's my personal time. I feel so much better having that little bit of routine in my life and getting that workout in the morning. I just feel more energized and better throughout the day, that even if I'm losing that half hour in the morning, I'm almost for certain more productive the rest of the day.
Yes.
And I can make up that time at night. I can go home at 7 instead of 6 or whatever it is. Right.
Yep. That's right.
So good to like get some sort of like routine to look forward to instead of being so effing ad hoc on everything. So anyways, the school because summer is obviously more difficult to have a routine.
Absolutely.
But once school's back in next week, it'll be like, okay, now I can plan my days a hair better, knowing that like I'll have, when 3 kids are home, it's crazy. There's no planning.
You can't get anything done. So,
yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, everybody have a good week. If you want to like ask any further like probing questions about these questions to us, certainly just send us a message on Instagram. Take it easy. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Now you know what we're about. Check the site, come and shop. UltimateDeckShop.com. Hit us right away for sponsorships, or tell us if you want to collaborate. Let's go. Check us out on any social networks. Thank you for listening.